Is it successful? On the distant mountain peak, Tian Huang, the clan leader of the Tian Huang clan, Elder Lu, and the other elders of the 9 Nether Sparrow clan gazed at the soaring black phoenix in the sky with faces full of ecstatic joy, trembling with excitement. They could feel the oppressive aura descending from above, an aura so powerful that it made their bloodlines quiver. The 9 Nether clan already possessed a trace of the Undying Bird's bloodline, but few could awaken this bloodline, and it was even rarer for someone to undergo a reversion and evolve into the Undying Bird. Thus, when 9 Nether successfully evolved into the ancient Undying Bird, every member of the 9 Nether Sparrow clan present could feel a wave of oppressive bloodline authority. Elder Lu, has 9 Nether now reached the Heavenly Supreme level? Clan leader Tian Huang asked excitedly. He could sense the vast, ancient, powerful spiritual energy of 9 Nether, but he couldn't distinguish what stage her evolution had reached. Elder Lu carefully sensed the aura for a moment, and then, with a hint of awe, he slowly said, I fear 9 Nether's level has already reached the late spirit grade. Beast cultivation is different from human cultivation. While humans steadily progress, advancing step by step, beasts may stagnate for many years without progress. But once they break through their shackles, they can advance rapidly, reaching levels unimaginable to ordinary beings. Therefore, 9 Nether, in terms of spiritual energy level, was now probably stronger than Chen. Late spirit grade. Clan leader Tian Huang and the other elders were overjoyed upon hearing this. Over the years, the 9 Nether Sparrow clan had only relied on Elder Lu, who was a spirit grade Heavenly Supreme, to hold their place among the beast races, barely making it into the top ranks. But they were constantly under challenge, especially since Elder Lu was aging and had lost his sharpness, making slow progress in cultivation. However, with 9 Nether's successful evolution, the 9 Nether Sparrow clan had now broken free from this predicament. With 9 Nether evolving into the ancient Undying Bird, one of the supreme divine beasts, their strength was now on par with the top 3 super divine beasts. With 9 Nether's existence, even other divine beast races, let alone the truly supreme ones, would have to show caution and no longer dare to bully the 9 Nether Sparrow clan. Boom. Boom. While they were still rejoicing, a low rumble of thunder suddenly echoed from the sky. Their expressions changed, and they looked up, unable to help but exclaim, "Why is there another thunder tribulation?" They saw thick thunderclouds forming in the sky, and the violent fluctuations within them sent chills down their spines as they gathered in a frenzy. It's not aimed at 9 Nether. Elder Lu's eyes narrowed, and he said gravely. Clan leader Tian Huang was momentarily stunned. If it wasn't aimed at 9 Nether, then who was it for? But the next moment, he realized and hurriedly looked toward the distant direction where Chen was. Indeed, he saw that above Chen, in the enormous blood cloud that looked like a massive blood egg, terrifying fluctuations were faintly emanating. What exactly is being born in that blood cloud egg? It feels unsettling. Clan leader Tian Huang murmured. The vast blood aura in the blood cloud blocked their probing, and even Elder Lu couldn't detect what was inside. Boom. Boom. The violent thunderclaps in the sky caught Chen's attention. He narrowed his gaze at the black thunderclouds spreading across the sky, feeling the destructive fluctuations within them, his brow furrowing slightly. He realized that the power in these thunderclouds seemed even stronger than when 9 Nether had evolved successfully. But then he came to a realization, after all, he was in the process of transforming into a true dragon and true phoenix. Both of these were powerful beings comparable to the Undying Bird. It was only natural that the thunder tribulation for 2 such beings would be even stronger than 9 Nethers. I hope it can be blocked, Chen murmured, staring at the 2 enormous blood cloud eggs. This thunder tribulation couldn't be resisted by external forces, so it had to be endured by the true dragon and true phoenix themselves. Boom. As Chen muttered to himself, the thick black thunderclouds reached their peak. The world darkened as 2 bolts of black lightning, like gigantic dragons, howled down toward the enormous blood cloud eggs, crashing violently into them. Boom. The sky seemed to tremble slightly, and the vast blood aura around the 2 blood cloud eggs surged, as if a piece of it had been bitten off. Boom. Boom. The first strike had no effect, and the thunder tribulation grew more violent. The entire sky echoed with thunder as countless bolts of black lightning rained down. The sheer force of the assault made even Elder Lu feel his scalp tingle. Under this wild bombardment of thunder, the blood cloud eggs visibly began to shrink at a visible rate. Chen saw the situation and pressed his palms together. The 3 blood essence crystals, now only the size of a fist, were instantly crushed by his force. In the next moment, they transformed into surging blood light, rising toward the sky and entering the two blood cloud eggs. With the support of the overwhelming blood energy, the thick clouds surrounding the blood cloud eggs regained their density once again. Boom, boom, boom. However, this was clearly only temporary. Under the continuous bombardment of lightning, the blood cloud eggs grew smaller and smaller, and eventually they had shrunk to less than 1,000 feet in size. The scene worried the Tian Luo clan leader and the others from afar. Although they did not understand what Mu Chen was doing, it seemed like the two blood cloud eggs were struggling to hold up. However, compared to their concern, Mu Chen's expression gradually relaxed because he could sense that two powerful life forces inside the blood cloud eggs had finally fully formed. High in the sky, the black thunderclouds compressed violently, taking on a funnel shape. Terrifying lightning gradually condensed, finally forming an enormous black lightning pillar that descended. At the halfway point of its descent, the pillar suddenly split, transforming into a black lightning dragon and a lightning phoenix diving down. The force of this attack, if it struck, would flatten all the mountains within 100,000 miles. However, at this moment, the two blood cloud eggs actually tore open on their own. Immediately after, the earth-shaking roars of a dragon and a phoenix echoed through the heavens. Blinding light shot up into the sky, and from a distance, the Tian Luo clan leader and others were left stunned as they saw a giant dragon and a giant phoenix unfurl their massive bodies within the light. The giant dragon was suffused with golden light, its scales shimmering with mysterious gleams. Its long, serpentine body was strong and powerful, seeming to contain destructive forces. The dragon's scales were etched with ancient, natural runes, giving it an air of mystery. The giant phoenix, on the other hand, seemed forged from gold, majestic and noble. Its feathers appeared to flow with golden magma, continuously dripping and melting through the void. Two terrifying waves of pressure swept from the sky, causing the Tian Luo clan leader and the others to change color. This is a true dragon, and a true phoenix. The voice of shock echoed. The Tian Luo clan leader and the others were left incredulous. As members of the Divine Beast clan, they could clearly feel the overwhelming pressure, as if from beings of the highest authority. Moreover, these were real, flesh and blood true dragons and true phoenixes, not illusory creatures. How was this possible? Elder Lu also gasped in astonishment. How could Mu Chen have given birth to a true dragon and a true phoenix? True dragons and true phoenixes were royalty among the dragon and phoenix clans, their bloodlines incredibly rare. Even within these two clans, it was extremely difficult to give birth to such beings. But now, Mu Chen had actually brought them into existence. Amidst the astonished gazes, the true dragon and true phoenix soared into the air, then collided with the descending lightning dragon and lightning phoenix with their formidable bodies. Boom! The earth trembled, lightning scattered, and spread across the sky. Amidst the ravaging thunder, the strong true dragon and mysterious true phoenix roared, allowing the lightning to strike them but remaining unshaken. The spiritual energy fluctuations exploding from their bodies surged forth in a terrifying manner, rapidly growing stronger. In just a few breaths, they broke through several levels of restriction and stepped into the immortal grade. Hiss. Elder Lu sucked in a cold breath, stunned. This true dragon and true phoenix have already reached the initial immortal grade. The Tian Luo clan leader and the others exchanged looks, speechless from shock. Who would have thought that Mu Chen not only gave birth to a true dragon and true phoenix, but also that they reached the immortal grade as soon as they appeared? They've reached the immortal grade. Mu Chen was also extremely surprised by this outcome. Originally, he thought they would at most reach the late spirit grade, but he never expected the true dragon and true phoenix to directly step into the immortal grade, even stronger than his own true form. However, he gazed at the true dragon and true phoenix soaring in the sky, his brows slightly furrowing. In his perception, these two creatures did not seem to possess their own intelligence. In some ways, they seemed more like avatars he had cultivated. Nevertheless, Mu Chen did not pay much attention to this, as these true dragon and true phoenix were born from him. It seemed unlikely for them to develop independent intelligence. Mu Chen waved his sleeve, and the true dragon and true phoenix responded with a soft chirp, transforming into golden light that descended from the sky. The true phoenix turned into a small snake and slithered into Mu Chen's sleeve, while the true dragon morphed into a golden bird and landed on his shoulder. Feeling the mysterious connection between them and himself, Mu Chen couldn't help but smile in satisfaction. After all these years of nurturing them, they had finally grown into their true forms. At that moment, a black flame engulfed the black phoenix as it descended from the sky, eventually transforming in a flash of dark light into a tall, slender, and graceful figure. Everyone's gaze turned toward the figure, and even Mu Chen couldn't help but be momentarily stunned, a flicker of awe passing through his eyes. The nine Nether, standing before him, seemed to have changed. Her black skirt wrapped around her delicate figure, her jade-like legs slender and straight. Her long black hair cascaded down, and her once cold and striking face now carried a mysterious and regal aura. Her lively eyes resembled burning black flames, deep and mesmerizing, drawing one in. In the past, the nine Nether had been cold and wild, but now she seemed to have shed all her sharp edges, giving off a mysterious allure, and with the noble bloodline running through her veins, she gave off an aura that made people hesitant to approach. Noticing Mu Chen's gaze, nine Nether's enchanting eyes met his, and a familiar smile appeared on her beautiful face. Looking at her smile, Mu Chen also smiled faintly. No matter how much she had changed, she was still the nine Nether who had once stood by his side, protecting him. Tian Luo Continent, Northern Domain, Manor headquarters. In a grand hall, Mu Chen sat behind a desk, his head spinning as he gazed at the various documents that cluttered the table. These were all reports from the forces under Mu Manor, including tribute offerings and other materials, an overwhelming amount of work. Sigh. After flipping through papers for half the day, Mu Chen, exhausted, finally put down the document in his hand and looked up at Mandala, who was grinning with a look of mischief on her face. He gave a bitter smile and said, "Do I really need to sign off on all of these?" Mandala curled her lips and replied, "You are the Lord of Mu Manor, after all. You should be aware of these reports related to the manor." Mu Chen sighed. Half a month ago, he had returned to Mu Manor from the nine Nether Sparrow clan, thinking he would be able to enjoy a period of peace. But to his surprise, Mandala, who had long disliked his hands-off management style, started bombarding him with piles of documents to approve daily. This had caused him no small amount of stress. Over the past half-month, Mu Chen felt it was more exhausting than fighting with Huang Xuanji from the Phoenix clan. "Fine, I get it. I understand how hard it must be for you." Mu Chen raised his hands in surrender. He knew full well that Mandala was doing this on purpose, giving him a little lesson. After all, since the founding of Mu Manor, Mu Chen had largely ignored its affairs, leaving everything to others to handle. Nearby, Nine Nether and the profound Heaven Elder couldn't help but chuckle at the sight. No one had expected that the renowned top genius of the Great Thousand Worlds would humble himself here. 2 months ago, Mu Chen's earth-shattering battle in the Divine Transformation Pool against the young master of the Phoenix clan, Huang Xuanji, had already spread throughout the Great Thousand Worlds. This had further elevated Mu Chen's reputation. After all, everyone knew Huang Xuanji had previously slain a Heavenly Supreme at the mid-immortal grade. Yet, now, the Phoenix clan's prodigy had been defeated by Mu Chen, a clear sign that Mu Chen's strength surpassed that of Huang Xuanji. What amazed people even more was that Mu Chen was still only at the mid-spirit grade. It was hard to believe that when he eventually reached the immortal grade, he would likely become an invincible force beneath the saint grade. Seeing Mu Chen admit defeat, Mandala's tightly drawn face finally relaxed. With a soft snort, she pushed the pile of documents aside, retrieving a scroll from the stack. "This is the profit Mu Manor made last year. 1.9 billion supreme spiritual liquid." 1.9 billion. Mu Chen couldn't help but click his tongue. Back when they were in the Great Luo Heaven domain, they couldn't even reach a fraction of this amount in a year. Do you think that's a lot? Seeing Mu Chen's surprised expression, Mandala couldn't help but roll her eyes. Mu Chen gave a sheepish smile. Isn't it a lot? Clearly, he wasn't very familiar with these financial matters. 1.9 billion supreme spiritual liquid, 700 million is allocated for your cultivation, and the yearly offering to the profound Heaven Elder requires 400 million. Now that Nine Nether has broken through to Heavenly Supreme, we must also provide her with 400 million supreme spiritual liquid for the year. This leaves us with only 400 million supreme spiritual liquid available for other uses. Do you know how many mouse there are under Mu Manor? Mandala snorted coldly. Mu Chen was stunned, a little guilty. Clearly, he hadn't realized that he alone had consumed nearly a third of the Manor's resources. However, after stepping into Heavenly Supreme, the amount of resources required for cultivation was indeed enormous. But without using supreme spiritual liquid, the efficiency of cultivation would be significantly reduced. This was also why many powerful beings, once they reached Heavenly Supreme, would either form their own factions or ally with top superpowers. Cultivation truly demanded massive resources. I don't need that much, Nine Nether said in surprise. She hadn't expected to receive such an offering as a heavenly supreme. She immediately hurried to decline. Mandala shook her head and said, "This is the rule. Every heavenly supreme is the pillar and foundation of a superpower. If Manor can't even provide this level of treatment, how could we attract other heavenly supremes to join us?" Looking at Chen, Mandala continued, "However, with our current territory, Manor can only afford to support 3 heavenly supremes. If another one comes, we might be unable to handle it." Hearing this, Chen's expression became serious. This was clearly related to the future development of Manor. After all, heavenly supremes were the foundation of any superpower. It's simple to gauge the strength of a superpower. Just look at the number of heavenly supremes they have. "What should we do then?" Chen asked, looking at Mandala. "Maintain the status quo for now, develop slowly, or expand the territory so Manor can acquire more resources and land," Mandala said calmly. Right now, the superpowers behind the factions on Tian Luo continent are secretly keeping an eye on Manor. That's why we haven't expanded much outside the northern domain these past 1 or 2 years, to avoid triggering a collective backlash. Chen pondered for a moment and asked, "Have we fully investigated the superpowers behind those factions on Tian Luo continent?" Mandala nodded, taking out a scroll and handing it to Chen. Chen took it and slowly opened it. What greeted his eyes were the names of 5 superpowers, and the leaders of these powers were well known in the Great Thousand Worlds. Danyang Mountain, Danyang Patriarch. Xianin City, Yuxian City Lord. Purple Thunder Immortal Sect, Violet Thunder Venerable. White Tiger Valley, White Tiger King. Spirit Ghost Sect, Ghost Emperor. The leaders of the first 4 superpowers had all reached the initial immortal grade, while the last leader, the Ghost Emperor of Spirit Ghost Sect, had already stepped into the mid-immortal grade. Tian Luo continent truly lives up to its name as a supercontinent. The situation is incredibly complex. With 5 such powerful superpowers, Chen remarked, his expression slightly grim. These superpowers have long had unspoken rules on Tian Luo continent. They wouldn't send any heavenly supremes to interfere, only supporting their factions and letting them fight amongst themselves. But no one expected Manor to produce such a freak as you, completely shattering the rules of Tian Luo continent in just a few short years, Mandala chuckled. When Manor first unified the northern domain, these 5 superpowers secretly issued warnings, telling us not to extend our influence into other regions of Tian Luo continent. They even secretly obstructed Manor's expansion. But after your dealings with the Mohe Ancient Clan became known, these 5 superpowers became cautious. They pulled back their interference. Chen nodded slightly. He knew the reason why these 5 superpowers had become cautious. It was because they had learned that his mother was a Saint-grade Grandmaster and the first elder of the Mohe Ancient Clan. That had made them too wary to take any drastic actions against Manor. However, the current situation was indeed troublesome. Though Manor was brimming with potential, it was being blocked by these 5 superpowers at the northern domain. If they forced their way out, it might cause the superpowers to unite against Manor. That would be a great threat to them. After all, Chen wasn't likely to bring his mother into the fray and wipe out these factions. Manor was his foundation, and he wanted to make it truly powerful through his own strength. But right now, in order for Manor to grow stronger and eventually join the ranks of the top superpowers in the Great Thousand Worlds, it must dominate the entire Tian Luo continent. Only by using the resources of this supercontinent as a foundation can Manor become a massive force within the Great Thousand Worlds. This isn't driven by Chen's ambition. It's because he knows that as Manor continues to grow stronger, even if he doesn't take action himself, the 5 superpowers will eventually see Manor as a threat and will be unable to tolerate its existence. At that point, conflict will be inevitable. According to Chen's estimate, if Qing Yinjing hadn't suddenly become the first elder of the Mohe Ancient Clan, those 5 superpowers would have likely already attacked Manor by now. There would have been no waiting until today. In their eyes, Manor, growing stronger day by day, has already become a thorn in their side, a pain in their flesh. There's no rush, Chen thought for a moment, then said slowly, the situation in Manor can be maintained. If I can just buy more time, I'll make sure they no longer have the guts to stay in Tian Luo continent and will retreat voluntarily. Though the enemy is numerous, with enough time, or once he steps into the immortal grade Heavenly Supreme Realm, the 5 superpowers should show clear differences in strength. By then, Chen would naturally be able to subdue them without a fight, effortlessly claiming dominion over Tian Luo. Hearing this, Mandala sighed and said, What I fear is that they won't give you that time. What do you mean? Mu Chen's eyes narrowed slightly. Mandala's small face turned cold as she said slowly, I've received word that a few days ago, the 5 superpowers of Danyang Mountain and Xian'an City formed an alliance, the Tian Luo Alliance. I'm afraid this Tian Luo Alliance is targeting Mu Manor. Mu Chen's brows furrowed slightly, clearly not expecting that the 5 superpowers would be so decisive, directly forming an alliance to block Mu Manor's bid for dominance over Tian Luo continent. As Mu Chen fell silent, the hall grew quiet as well. But at that moment, a beam of spiritual light suddenly streaked into the hall from outside, and Mandala grabbed it. After sensing it for a moment, her delicate face shifted slightly. What's wrong? Mu Chen asked, raising an eyebrow. Mandala's voice grew cold as she said, a message has come. 3 days from now, the 5 leaders of the Tian Luo Alliance will host a banquet in Tian Luo City and have invited you to attend. Banquets rarely bring good tidings, the profound heaven elders said in a low voice. What should we do? Mandala asked, her gaze fixed on Mu Chen. Mu Chen's hand gently rubbed the table's surface, and as the light of the flames illuminated his handsome face, a smile, more like a smirk, appeared. His dark eyes glinted with a cold light. Boldness, I see. I was planning to wait some more, to let them retreat on their own. But now they're in such a hurry to challenge me. Then let's grant them their wish. As the last word fell, an overwhelming aura erupted from Mu Chen's body, shaking the air and making his robes billow, as if a mighty king had arrived. Within the hall, spiritual energy surged like the roar of a dragon and tiger, causing the space to tremble. Faced with the spiritual energy wave emanating from Mu Chen's body, the profound heaven elder was slightly moved. It seemed that Mu Chen was becoming more and more terrifying. In his estimation, Mu Chen now was certainly no longer the weakling he once was. Mandala's face turned somewhat cold as she murmured, Why would the Tian Luo Alliance provoke you at this time? They used to be quite wary of you. Mu Chen's eyes narrowed slightly. This was indeed strange. His mother was a Saint-grade grandmaster, and although Mu Chen didn't want to rely on her status to suppress others, the 5 heavenly supremes of the Tian Luo Alliance had clearly been wary of her. But now, they were still choosing to confront him head-on. Did that mean they no longer feared his mother? Investigate this matter over the next couple of days. I need to know the Tian Luo Alliance's true intentions, Mu Chen said, his fingers lightly tapping the table. While I'm not afraid of them, I'm not reckless either. Knowing both our strengths and weaknesses is the key to ensuring a steady victory. Mandala nodded gently in response. The investigation into the Tian Luo Alliance was quickly concluded. The following day, a large amount of intelligence was placed before Mu Chen. He carefully read through it, and after a moment of silence, he closed the file and gave a cold smile. I knew their courage had grown. Turns out, someone's been pulling the strings behind the scenes. Who? Nether asked solemnly. According to the information, a month ago, someone from the Mohe Ancient Clan approached the 5 major superpowers. A cold light flashed in Mu Chen's eyes as he spoke. The Mohe Ancient Clan? Inside the Great Hall, Mandala, Nether, and the profound Heaven Elder's expressions all changed slightly. Clearly, they hadn't expected that the Mohe Ancient Clan, with whom they had never had any contact, would suddenly show up on Tian Luo continent and stir up trouble. We have no relations with the Mohe Ancient Clan. Why would they suddenly come after you? Mandala asked, puzzled. Mu Chen narrowed his eyes slightly, paused for a moment, then smiled faintly. In half a year, the Mohe Ancient Clan's eternal assembly will begin. Hearing this baffling statement from Mu Chen, the 3 of them were stunned, obviously not understanding what this had to do with Mu Manor. Among the Mohe Ancient Clan, there is the eternal undying body, and the so-called eternal assembly is held to select a master for it, Mu Chen explained calmly. Originally, the eternal undying body was kept by the immortal emperor in the Mohe Ancient Clan, but now they've grown greedy and see themselves as the rightful owner of the body. How could they allow someone else to take it? I've heard my mother say that, in order to ensure the eternal undying body doesn't fall into the hands of others, the Mohe Ancient Clan investigates outstanding powerhouses who have cultivated into an immortal golden body. Before every eternal assembly, they use all sorts of methods to obstruct them, preventing them from attending the assembly. I believe they've set their sights on me because my reputation has been growing too quickly recently. They want to use these methods to hinder me. However, because of my mother, they dare not openly oppose me, so they've instigated the 5 superpowers to form the Tian Luo Alliance and block my way. How despicable. Nether's pretty face was filled with anger as she coldly spoke. The Mohe Ancient Clan's tactics were truly despicable. The immortal emperor had entrusted them with the responsibility of safeguarding the eternal undying body, and had even spread the cultivation methods for the great sun indestructible body and immortal golden body across the great thousand worlds to select the most suitable individual for the body's master. But now, the Mohe Ancient Clan had treated it as their own property, failing to act as proper guardians and even secretly obstructing others who had cultivated the immortal golden body from attending the eternal assembly. Such behavior was utterly vile. Mandala's expression also turned cold, and she sneered, "The eternal undying body is one of the 5 primordial law bodies in the great thousand worlds, and it once created the immortal emperor, the strongest in the entire world. With such a temptation, it's no wonder the Mohe Ancient Clan would cast aside their ancient clan's honor and resort to such underhanded tactics. What should we do now? The Tian Luo banquet doesn't seem to be friendly," said the profound Heaven Elder, his tone filled with worry. Mu Chen's eyes flashed with a sharp gleam. After a brief pause, he smiled, his voice calm. "Since the Tian Luo Alliance has sent an invitation, if my Mu Manor doesn't attend, all the hard-earned reputation will be ruined." A coldness swept across his face. Originally, he had planned to give the 5 superpowers some more time to settle, and once he broke through to the immortal grade, he'd peacefully convince them to withdraw. This way, both sides could retreat unscathed. But since they were so eager, he had no choice but to move his plans forward. "Spread the word. In 2 days, my Mu Manor will attend the banquet." Mu Chen slowly closed his eyes, yet his voice carried a chilling edge. Since the other side wanted to provoke him, he could only advance his schedule to dominate the Tian Luo continent. The news of the Tian Luo Alliance holding the Tian Luo banquet to invite the Lord of Mu Manor spread, shaking the entire Tian Luo continent. At present, it was obvious to all that as Mu Chen's fame continued to rise throughout the great thousand worlds, Mu Manor's status had also been steadily climbing, becoming increasingly formidable. Its prospects were clearly extraordinary. Faced with Mu Manor's growing strength, the superpowers behind the sects on Tian Luo continent could no longer hold back. Not long ago, the 5 superpowers formed the Tian Luo Alliance. As a result, the Tian Luo Alliance now controlled 3/4 of Tian Luo continent, exuding an imposing force and showing signs of overshadowing Mu Manor. This caused some forces that had originally considered aligning with Mu Manor to hesitate, fearing that Mu Manor might decline under the pressure of the Tian Luo Alliance. Therefore, when the news of the Tian Luo banquet spread, almost all the forces on Tian Luo continent turned their attention toward it. They knew that this banquet could very well determine who would become the ultimate ruler of Tian Luo continent. The greatest event in tens of thousands of years on the Tian Luo continent had just occurred, for it meant that a true ruler might soon emerge to unify the continent. However, whether this ruler would be the Heavenly Luo Alliance or Mu Manor, that depended on the contest between the 2 powers. Nevertheless, regardless of the outcome, this was a monumental event for the entire Tian Luo continent, and no one could afford to ignore it. Tian Luo City, now the headquarters of the Heavenly Luo Alliance. At the heart of the city stood a grand palace, and within one of the inner chambers, 5 figures sat around a round table. Despite the absence of any visible spiritual energy flowing around them, a terrifying aura of oppression emanated from their presence, causing the very air in the chamber to warp and twist. "The Lord of Mu Manor, Mu Chen, has accepted the invitation." A voice broke the silence, that of an elderly man in a purple robe. He furrowed his brow and hesitated, saying, "Mu Chen is no ordinary character. Not long ago, even Huang Xuanji from the Phoenix clan was defeated by him. Are we truly going to provoke him? Dan Yang Patriarch, you're a saint-grade heavenly supreme. Why fear a mere spirit-grade youth?" A burly man in his prime, his eyes crackling with lightning, mocked in response. The purple-robed elder shot him a cold glance and sneered, "A spirit-grade youth? Then why don't you, Violet Thunder Venerable, give it a try? If you can leave his hands unscathed, I'll never speak a word in your presence again." The middle-aged man froze, his expression stiffened. With Mu Chen's strength, even someone like Huang Xuanji had been defeated. It was clear the young man's combat prowess was formidable. The Violet Thunder Venerable knew full well that in a one-on-one confrontation, he was no match for Mu Chen. "Enough, both of you." A cold voice suddenly echoed in the chamber, causing the temperature to drop sharply. At the sound, Dan Yang Patriarch and Violet Thunder Venerable fell silent, their eyes filled with a mix of wariness as they turned toward the figure at the head of the table. There, shrouded in an aura of eerie coldness, sat a man in black robes. His face was pale, his eyes sunken, with a pair of gray-white orbs that seemed to harbor the very essence of death, sending a chill down one's spine. This man was none other than the Ghost Emperor of the Spirit Ghost sect, whose strength was at the mid-immortal grade, making him the most powerful among the 5 present. The Ghost Emperor's gray-white eyes swept over the others, his voice chilling as he spoke. You all must have seen the ambition of Manor. Chen is clearly aiming to claim the title of Overlord of the Tian Luo continent. If we don't take advantage of this moment to crush his ambition, the day may come when we are powerless in this land. Hearing this, Dan Yang Patriarch and the others nodded in solemn agreement. Their faces were grave. However, Chen's mother is the first elder of the Mohe Ancient Clan. Dan Yang Patriarch remarked, "Don't worry. The Mohe Ancient Clan has already assured us they won't allow the Mohe Ancient Clan to intervene. With their support, we need not fear too much." The Ghost Emperor's voice turned even colder. "Besides, we don't intend to kill Chen. As long as he dares to come, we will strike him hard, leaving him to recover for a year or 2. Once we've accomplished that, the Mohe Ancient Clan will back us in ruling the Tian Luo continent." At these words, the eyes of the others gleamed with eager anticipation. To dominate the Tian Luo continent was a long-held ambition of theirs. With the Mohe Ancient Clan's backing, they believed the other major powers with designs on the continent would be forced to retreat. "Then let's do it." They all exchanged glances and, in unison, spoke in a low voice. They hadn't given much thought to Manor or Chen's response. After all, Manor's foundation was weak and largely relied on Chen himself. Though Chen was indeed a formidable warrior, they didn't believe he could single-handedly withstand the combined might of 5 superpowers. Humph. You can blame Chen's ambition for this. The Tian Luo continent is not a place you can lay claim to. Tian Luo continent, Tian Luo city. This majestic city was located at the center of the continent, and in terms of its grandeur, it could be considered the capital of the Tian Luo continent. Due to its unique significance, this city had never been fully controlled by any one faction. Instead, it was jointly governed by the top powers of the Tian Luo continent. However, with the formation of the Heavenly Luo Alliance, a superpower formed by the union of 5 major forces, they now had enough leverage to make bold moves. On the second day after the establishment of the Heavenly Luo Alliance, it was directly announced that Tian Luo City would be the headquarters of the alliance. Yet, there was no opposition to this decision from the people of Tian Luo continent. The combined might of these 5 superpowers was simply too overwhelming to ignore. In the past, these 5 major forces on Tian Luo continent had been at odds with one another, constantly engaging in conflict and war, preventing any single power from rising to dominate the continent. But now, with the rise of Manor, all 5 superpowers felt the pressure of a potential threat. So, when they decided to form an alliance, a monstrous force was born on Tian Luo continent. If this colossal force could gain the upper hand in the upcoming Heavenly Luo banquet, no one would doubt that Tian Luo continent would soon see the emergence of a true overlord. Thus, amidst the intense anticipation, 2 days passed in the blink of an eye. When the morning sun broke through the clouds and shone upon the magnificent and ancient city, it felt as though the entire city had suddenly come to life with explosive energy and excitement. In the distance, countless lights streaked through the sky, eventually descending upon the city like a swarm of locusts. At that moment, Tian Luo City had become the focal point of the entire continent, with nearly every powerful figure and faction gathering here. Everyone knew that this time, the Heavenly Luo banquet could very well see the rise of a real overlord. In recent years, Manor had grown rapidly under the leadership of Chen, creating miracle after miracle and becoming unstoppable. The newly formed Heavenly Luo Alliance, backed by 5 superpowers, was equally powerful, a force that could draw attention even in the Great Thousand Worlds. Now, these 2 greatest powers on Tian Luo continent were about to collide, and a victor would soon emerge. The entire continent would welcome a new overlord and put an end to the chaos. This was, without a doubt, the grandest event in Tian Luo continent in 1,000 years. As the city buzzed with excitement, in the heart of the city, a vast white jade plaza glowed with a jade-like light, drawing countless gazes. Whoosh! Whoosh! High in the sky, countless lights descended and appeared around the plaza seating area. Anyone present in this section was a well-known powerhouse or top-tier faction from Tian Luo continent. However, these typically admired figures and factions would be overshadowed today, as everyone knew the true protagonists of the event were the 2 colossal forces. Countless eyes, filled with awe, turned toward the very front of the plaza. There, 5 golden thrones shimmered with golden light. Sitting upon them were 5 figures, exuding an immense, unyielding pressure that seemed to spread like a storm, causing the very heavens and earth to tremble. 5 immortal-grade heavenly supremes. Such a lineup, even in the Great Thousand Worlds, would be regarded as an incredibly powerful force. Now, placed in Tian Luo continent, the shock was simply unparalleled. In the past, these 5 immortal-grade heavenly supremes had always been hidden behind the top factions of Tian Luo continent. But now, due to the rise of Chen, these behind-the-scenes powerhouses were forced to show themselves. 5 immortal-grade heavenly supremes. How terrifying. I never knew Tian Luo continent had such formidable figures hiding in the shadows. Countless voices in the bustling city murmured in awe, their eyes fixed on the 5 divine-like figures. It seems like the Heavenly Luo Alliance is going to have a direct confrontation with Manor this time. Manor's rise has been so rapid. The Lord of Manor is incredibly fierce. There are rumors that even Huang Xuanji of the Phoenix clan was defeated by him not long ago. Isn't the Lord of Manor named Chen? A few years ago, he was just a high-ranking official in the Great Luo Heaven domain. Who would have thought that in such a short time, he would rise to this point? It's truly terrifying. I wonder who will come out on top in this clash. Probably the Heavenly Luo Alliance, right? After all, those are 5 immortal-grade heavenly supremes. But Chen is no simple character either. His battle achievements are so astonishing, they seem almost unbelievable. Anyway, no matter how it turns out, today's Heavenly Luo banquet is bound to be an extraordinary event. Whispers spread throughout the city, and it was clear to everyone that the Heavenly Luo Alliance wasn't setting up such an elaborate event just to host Manor. The underlying intent was obvious. It was all about competing for the position of supreme ruler of Tian Luo continent. And how could the young lord of Manor, a peerless talent with impressive battle achievements, easily bow down? Thus, when these two forces clashed today, sparks were bound to fly. As countless whispers echoed in the air, the 5 seated on the golden throne, though their eyes were slightly closed, as if they hadn't heard, occasionally allowed cold light to flash in their gaze, sending tremors through the surrounding space. Time slowly passed amidst the brewing turmoil, and soon, a blazing sun hung at the center of the sky. Screech. At that moment, a clear phoenix cry seemed to pierce through the space itself, coming from a distant horizon, resonating across the heavens and earth. Whoosh. Almost all eyes shot upwards, locking onto the distant sky. There, a terrifying pressure seemed to sweep toward them, leaving everyone with a sense of dread. Even the Ghost Emperor and Dan Yang Patriarch on the Golden Throne opened their eyes, narrowing their gaze at the distant horizon. Under the watchful eyes of countless onlookers, a tiny dot appeared far off in the sky. It flickered a few times before rapidly expanding in their vision, eventually transforming into a colossal, boundless black phoenix. The black phoenix flapped its cloud-draped wings, its body ablaze with black flames. In just a few moments, it approached the city, and instantly, the overwhelming pressure, like a bloodline force, spread across the area, causing many powerful figures to turn pale. What kind of divine beast is this? This pressure is terrifying. It rivals that of the Phoenix or Dragon clan. In the city, countless powerful beings fell into disarray, their gazes filled with awe and fear, staring at the massive creature that obscured the sky. The pressure it exuded made everyone's hearts race. The Ghost Emperor, Dan Yang Patriarch, and the others frowned. They exchanged glances, and the surprise in their eyes was palpable. Could it be the legendary Undying Bird? Despite their status as Heavenly Supremes, their extraordinary experiences allowed them to quickly deduce the identity of the Black Phoenix. Their expressions grew serious. They could clearly sense that the Undying Bird before them possessed the strength of the late Spirit Grade, and immense combat ability. Since Mansion Lord Chen has arrived, please show yourself. The Ghost Emperor's pale eyes fixed on the back of the Black Phoenix, and his cold voice echoed through the air. At that moment, countless gazes followed his words, and there, atop the immense Black Phoenix's head, stood a slender figure with his hands clasped behind his back. His youthful face radiated a heavy sense of oppression. Hearing the Ghost Emperor's voice, the young figure seemed to smile slightly, then took a step forward. In the blink of an eye, he appeared like a ghost in the center of the White Jade Plaza. Above, the enormous Black Phoenix cried out, its massive form shrinking, eventually transforming into a streak of black flame that landed behind Chen, turning into a tall and slender figure. At the same time, from a distance behind, the sounds of wind slicing through the air followed, and numerous light figures appeared behind Chen and the 9 Nether clan. At the forefront of those figures were the Profound Heaven Elder and the Mandala clan, clearly signaling that Manor's strongest forces had arrived in full force. When they appeared, the bustling city fell into sudden silence. Countless curious and odd gazes gathered on the group from Mohe Manor. There, the young man stood with his hands clasped behind his back. His youthful, handsome face bore a faint smile, exuding an air of composure. He didn't even flinch at the presence of the 5 heavenly supremes before him. Mansion Lord Mohe Chen truly is a prodigy. At such a young age, he's already reached this level. We, on the other hand, can only look up in awe, the Ghost Emperor said slowly, his pale eyes fixed on Mohe Chen. Mohe Chen smiled lightly and responded, "There's no need for such pleasantries. You set up such a grand spectacle to invite me, surely it's not just to have me attend a banquet." The Ghost Emperor and the others exchanged glances. Dan Yang Patriarch then smiled and said, "We did indeed invite Mansion Lord Mohe Chen for a matter of discussion." He paused briefly before continuing with sincere expression. "Mansion Lord Mohe Chen, you might have already known, but our 5 factions have been planning for many years to unify Tian Luo continent. We've invested countless efforts here. Now, we are willing to set aside past grievances and end the constant conflicts on this continent. Therefore, we hope, for the sake of Tian Luo continent's peace, that you will abandon your ambitions for dominance. Of course, we will offer compensation to Mohe Manor. We've agreed to grant you the Tian Mang continent as a base for Mohe Manor's development." When Dan Yang Patriarch's words resonated, the entire realm fell into a brief silence. The major powers of Tian Luo continent collectively drew a breath. The Heavenly Luo Alliance wasn't being polite at all. They made their intentions clear from the very start. The people of Tian Mang continent were well aware that it was a small continent not far from Tian Luo continent, but it was limited in resources. Compared to Tian Luo continent, it was like heaven and earth apart. The powerful individuals from Mohe Manor also wore cold expressions. To give up Tian Luo continent and go to this so-called Tian Mang continent, did the Heavenly Luo Alliance really think they had Mohe Manor cornered? Countless gazes from all directions were fixed on Mohe Chen, yet his expression remained calm. When the voice of the Dan Yang Patriarch finally fell silent, it seemed as though he smiled for the first time. He raised his head, his gaze sweeping across the 5 exalted immortal-grade heavenly supremes. Then he gently shook his head with a smile. In a peaceful voice, he said, "I'll give you 1 day. Take your people and get out of Tian Luo continent. As for today's matter, I won't hold it against you." As soon as these words were spoken, the entire world fell silent. Countless strong figures wiped cold sweat from their brows. Though the Heavenly Luo Alliance's words were harsh, they had at least given some face. But who would have expected that Mohe Chen would not mince words? With a single sentence, he had completely torn apart any chance of reconciliation. Now, there was no longer any possibility of negotiation.